I'm Jonathan Gale. I'm a bit of an expert now in building things out of lightsabers. It all started a few years ago with just 25 of them. I realised I could get them in a nice compact square, and from there I kind of got a bit carried away. I had a feeling that this was about 3,000 lightsabers. I've just done a bit of quick calculation and I think it's now about 5,500 lightsabers, so I think this is just about equal with my largest ever build of this type. It's quite a time-intensive process. It's also quite a scary process to build because it's quite easy to get 6, 7, 8 hours into the build and then discover that one sneeze and you have to start all over again. The blades are not held in place by anything other than friction and gravity, so that does basically cause a bit of a challenge. And each one has to be placed basically by hand with tweezers, one at a time. So that's really it. The inspiration for the base was that here last year we all got, or loads of us got, a load of the 2x2 medium blue roof slopes, and I decided that I would, in honour of Paredes de Cura, I would bring a load of them back to Portugal with me and turn them into the mascot for the show and the unofficial mascot for the country. So that's really the inspiration for it.
Okay, awesome. And I think you have a couple kind of smaller builds that use this technique. If you want to show a little more like closer up example of how exactly that works.
Yeah, so I've done a closer. You can see here. I decided to make a chess set. I wanted to do something quite small. I've always wanted to do a chess set in Lego, but realistically, it's too big for minifig scale. Even that's obviously quite large, but you can get away with it. It's just about the right kind of size. I kind of grabbed a couple of figures, one of whom doesn't look very happy because he's about to lose, surrounded by the white pieces. So I've gone for that. I can show you how the kind of construction is done on another model here. You're not allowed to use the Lego logo in anything, so as you'll see, this isn't the Lego logo. It's 0937, which is the logo for the local lug that is actually hosting the event here. So it may look suspiciously familiar, but it is in fact nothing to do with Lego. This also lights up from behind, but you can see from here it is just lightsabers, and they're all done by basically getting a pair of tweezers, pulling one out at a time, and then replacing it with the colour that you need in the space that you need. The whole thing then, from behind, it's fully studless and just using trans clear parts, primarily because these were on the pick-a-brick wall, as were most of the grey bits and everything else you see. So that's really the inspiration for a lot of it, is what I happen to have on hand and what I can manage to get into a case and on a plane to travel.
Yeah, that's such a cool, unique technique. How have you collected these lightsabers over the years? Because obviously, look, it's like black and red, and some of these you've got a ton of in there. Where have you sourced some of those from?
Thank you. So the black lightsaber blades, I've my local Lego store got a box of them in their pick-a-brick wall. They knew that I was into interesting and unusual parts, so they held them back for me and said, we've got something you might be interested in. And I took the whole box, basically filled up several cups, and walked out with a lighter bank balance and a heavy bag. And I did the same again with another store. So I've amassed about 20,000 of the black blades. I'm intending to make a large mosaic. This I still consider to be quite a small mosaic, so I'm working on a large mosaic, and I've been collecting them pretty much anywhere else that I can do. So I've got several thousand of them from Lug Bulk, so we've got a few bits there. So that is my kind of plan. I'm waiting for more, and I buy more on Bricklink and grab any from any sets and do swaps with anyone that I can. And so I'm building up a collection. There's still lots of colours that I probably would have had in here, but 5,500 blades and probably an average of 10p each. So it kind of adds up. Yeah, so it's quite an expensive hobby.
Yeah. So of all the colors you've got in this build here, what's some of the hardest for you to source?
The blue ones, as you can see, that is basically all of the blue ones that I own. The other colours, I've got at least 1,000 or so of all of the other colours, but it takes 25 blades as an absolute minimum to cover a 2x2 space, and that's when you pack them in a kind of square arrangement, as the QR code is. If you pack them in a square arrangement, they don't want to stay in place. So you've got to have a lot of structure behind it. So as well as having 1,000 black blades, you've got to have those in 3-stud long version and 4-stud long version. And this is a mixture of the two. So there's a whole mix of blades and plates as well. My first 2 attempts at this imploded. So partway through the build, it's all looking beautiful, and then all of a sudden it just collapses on itself and changes from a square pack to a hexagonal pack because it takes up less space. So it's the natural way that they want to form. Rebuilt it again with structure underneath. Exactly the same thing happened again, but only at the top. So the whole top kind of went higgledy-piggledy. All ended up in a great big mess. Strangely, you could still scan it with a QR reader. It still worked, but it just looked wrong. So then I decided to replace it with a mixture of 3-stud long blades, 4-stud long blades, and some plates and tiles. And that finally got the QR code working. If you're going for the hexagonal pack, then you get even more parts per grid. So it uses up more parts. So, you know, a 4x4 grid is 100 pieces. So straight away you can see that's 100, that's 100, that's 100, and it very quickly adds up to the point where you're kind of running out and treading on blades for the next week because you drop them on the floor and yeah.
Exactly. And with the rooster here, you've got some interesting kind of contours and shapes. When you kind of start on a build like this, did you start from, you know, the top down, or how does that work as you're building it up?
Yeah, so what I would say to anybody attempting to copy this is do not do an interesting shape. So the first thing is do not start on an interesting shape. Start on a nice square shape. I would recommend, if you're going to do it, do an 8x8 hole. So make a ring around 8x8, leaving a gap in the middle. That will give you a perfect fit for a hexagonal pack. Absolute perfect fit for hexagonal packing. It's a really good way to start. They will be in tight enough that you can actually build it without even having a back on. And you can actually push the blades out one at a time and poke a new one in to kind of make up for it. You don't even need tweezers, you don't need anything. So my recommendation is start with an 8x8 grid, or even smaller if you want to start off something smaller. Be prepared that it takes a long time to get them in there. Be prepared for frustration. Find yourself a nice box set you can just watch while you're doing it on the telly or something, and just basically get to work. Sit there for hours. I think this probably took me about 30 to 40 hours altogether to build the rooster. The QR code, this build probably took 4 or 5 hours. Add on that 4 hours for the ones that exploded. The chest set probably took me 2 or 3 hours because they really don't want to stay in a square. There's so much pressure in there, and they're desperate to jump into a hexagon that the kind of slightest nudge could sort of set them off. But so far it's survived the trip here, and that's there. And the hexagonal packs are really strong. They're really stable. Make yourself a nice strong frame, and that is really the key.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And you've got a nice light behind this, lighting it up there. So is it just kind of trans clear pieces behind there?
Yeah. So again, I've got trans clear. I can show on the video. So this actually just clips off.
You dare to pick it up?
I have to pick this up quite regularly because there's actually a light internal in the base. So I have to turn the base upside down to take a video light out. I've got a LED video light. Again, lots more trans clear, 1x2 bricks. The challenge I had with this is that as you push in more lightsaber blades, it forces the trans clear plates apart to the point where it will then snap in half. So there's a collection of kind of stud not on top building and studs facing forwards. So there's tiles facing out as well as the grid built up behind. It's not deliberately designed to be in 2 colours. It kind of gives a nice contrast, but again, it was the parts I had available in a fair rush to build it for Paredes Decora here. So, but I think it works. So that's what I've gone with. I've copied the design from the kind of classic picture of the rooster that you find online. So if you search for Gallo de Barcelos, Google image search, this is pretty much, you should recognise it.
There you go. Yeah, I think you captured it really well. So I appreciate you kind of explaining the building technique there, and thanks for bringing, a Portuguese themed build to the show here. I think it's really great.
Thank you very much.